The early morning sun filtered through the dusty windows of Hayes Auto Repair on the south side of San Antonio, casting long shadows across the oil-stained concrete floor. Daniel Hayes stood beneath a 2015 Ford F-150, his calloused hands working methodically on the transmission, the metallic clink of tools echoing in the otherwise silent garage. At 42 years old, his face bore the weathered lines of someone who had lived through more than his years suggested. Deep creases around his eyes, a permanent furrow between his brows, and a salt and pepper beard that he kept neatly trimmed. The Texas heat was already building, even at 7 in the morning. Daniel wiped sweat from his forehead with the back of his hand, leaving a smudge of grease across his temple. The radio in the corner played softly, tuned to 96. 3KSMG, San Antonio's classic country station. When George Strait's voice filled the garage with "Carrying Your Love With Me," Daniel's hands stopped moving. He closed his eyes, and for a moment, he was back in that cramped apartment on the east side. 3 years after returning from Iraq. The walls had been closing in, empty beer bottles covering every surface. Rebecca's voice pleading with him from the other side of a locked door. That song had been playing then too, breaking through the fog of his self-destruction like a lighthouse beam cutting through a storm. "Dad? You okay?" Daniel opened his eyes to find his daughter Lily standing in the garage entrance, backpack slung over one shoulder, her long brown hair pulled back in a ponytail. At 16, she had her mother's sharp green eyes and determined chin, but she'd inherited his cautious nature, always watching, always reading the room. "Yeah, sweetheart. Just thinking." Daniel lowered the truck and wiped his hands on a red shop rag. "You need a ride to school?" "Mom's taking me. I just wanted to say goodbye." Lily stepped closer, her eyes searching his face with that familiar concern that made his chest tighten with guilt. Even after 3 years of sobriety and stability, she still watched him like he might disappear. "You sure you're good?" Daniel pulled her into a quick hug, leaving a careful gap between his grease-covered work shirt and her clean clothes. "I'm good, Lil. Better than good. Promise." After she left, Daniel returned to his work, but the song had stirred something in him that refused to settle. By the time his business partner, Carlos Mendez, arrived at 8:30, Daniel had already finished 2 jobs and started on a third, working with the kind of focused intensity that usually meant he was wrestling with something bigger than engine problems. "Man, you're on fire today," Carlos said, setting down 2 cups of coffee from the taqueria next door. "What's got you moving like this?" Daniel accepted the coffee gratefully, taking a long sip before answering. "You ever think about thanking someone who saved your life but has no idea they did it?" Carlos leaned against the workbench, his round face creasing with curiosity. "This about your AA sponsor?" "No. George Strait." Carlos laughed, then stopped when he saw Daniel's expression. "Wait, you're serious?" "Dead serious." Daniel set down his coffee and pulled out his phone, scrolling to a photo he'd saved years ago. It showed a younger version of himself in military fatigues, arms slung around his little brother Ryan's shoulders, both of them grinning in the Iraqi sun. Ryan had been 22 in that photo, full of life and terrible jokes, always humming George Strait songs while they worked on vehicles in the motor pool. "Ryan loved his music," Daniel said quietly. "Drove everyone crazy singing Amarillo by Morning at dark 30. After he..." Daniel's voice caught. "After the IED, after I came home, I couldn't listen to country music. Couldn't listen to anything. But one night, 3 years into drinking myself to death, that song came on, Carrying Your Love With Me, and I just broke." Carlos listened without interrupting, something Daniel appreciated about their 6-year friendship. "I called Rebecca for the first time in 2 weeks. Told her I needed help. Real help. Daniel's hands tightened around the coffee cup. That song reminded me that Ryan would have wanted me to keep going. To carry the good parts of him with me instead of drowning in losing him. George Strait's voice. It was like Ryan speaking directly to me. "So you want to thank him," Carlos said. "Yeah. I know it sounds stupid." "It doesn't sound stupid at all, brother." Carlos pulled out his own phone. "You know he's playing Houston next month? March 14th at the Toyota Center. Big show. Probably sold out, but..." "I'm not trying to meet him like some starstruck fan," Daniel interrupted. I wrote a letter. Thought maybe I could get it to him somehow. Let him know his music does more than entertain. It saves lives." Carlos studied him for a long moment. "You tell Rebecca about this?" "Not yet." "You should. She'll want to help. And you know Travis would too." Travis Bennett. Daniel's mind went to his best friend and fellow veteran, the one person who truly understood the weight Daniel had carried home from Iraq. They'd served together, suffered together, and clawed their way back to functionality together through the VA's Veteran Support Group. "Maybe," Daniel said, but he could feel the idea taking root, becoming something more than a passing thought. That evening, Daniel sat at the kitchen table in the modest 3-bedroom house he and Rebecca had bought 2 years ago in a quiet neighborhood near Southside Lions Park. The house still felt like a miracle to him, a tangible symbol of the life he'd rebuilt from ruins. Rebecca was at the stove, making chicken enchiladas, her movements efficient and familiar. At 39, she remained the most beautiful woman Daniel had ever seen, with shoulder-length auburn hair and a strength that had kept their family together when he'd been determined to tear it apart. Lily was upstairs doing homework, her music drifting down through the ceiling. Daniel pulled out the letter he'd been working on for the past week, the edges of the paper already worn from how many times he'd folded and unfolded it, reading and revising. "You've been staring at that for 10 minutes, Rebecca said, without turning around. "Either read it to me or put it away." Daniel smiled despite his nervousness. 15 years of marriage, 13 of them good, 2 of them hell, meant she could read him without looking. "It's a letter to George Strait." Rebecca turned, wooden spoon in hand, surprise evident on her face. "Really? I want to thank him. For the music. For..." Daniel gestured vaguely, struggling with words that felt too big for his mouth. "For being part of why I'm still here." Rebecca crossed to the table and sat down beside him, her hand finding his. Her fingers were warm, steady. "Read it to me." Daniel unfolded the letter, his voice rougher than usual as he read, "Mr. Strait, my name is Daniel Hayes. I'm a mechanic in San Antonio, a husband, a father, and a veteran of the Iraq War. I'm writing to thank you for something you probably don't even think about: the power your music has to save lives. My little brother Ryan died in 2011, killed by an IED outside Fallujah. He was 23 years old and never went anywhere without your songs. After I came home, I fell apart, lost myself in anger, alcohol, and isolation. I was killing myself slowly, and I didn't care. One night, 3 years after Ryan's death, your song, Carrying Your Love With Me, came on the radio during my darkest moment. I heard Ryan's voice in yours, reminding me to keep living, to carry the good parts forward instead of drowning in the loss. That song made me pick up the phone and ask for help. It was the first step in saving my life and my family. I've been sober for 3 years now. My marriage is strong. My daughter knows her father. I run a successful business and help other veterans through their struggles. None of that would exist without that moment your music reached me. I'm not looking for anything except to say thank you. Your songs do more than entertain. They heal, they comfort, they save. Thank you for sharing your gift with the world. Respectfully, Daniel Hayes. When he finished, Rebecca's eyes were bright with tears. She squeezed his hand tighter. Danny, that's beautiful. You have to send this to him. I want to do more than send it. I want to give it to him. In person, if I can. Daniel looked at his wife, searching her face for doubt or dismissal, but found only support. Carlos mentioned he's playing Houston next month. I thought maybe, I don't know, maybe I could try to get backstage or something. I know it's a long shot. Then we make the shot less long, Rebecca said firmly. We figure out how. Together. We. You think I'm letting you do this alone? After what you just read me? Rebecca stood and pulled out her own phone. I'm calling Amanda Rodriguez. You remember her from Lily's school fundraiser? She works for that country radio station. If anyone knows how to reach George Strait's people, it's her. Daniel felt something unfamiliar bloom in his chest. Hope mixed with possibility. You really think? I think you've spent 3 years helping other people rebuild their lives. I think you deserve this chance to say thank you to someone who helped rebuild yours. Rebecca was already dialing. And I think we're going to make it happen. Later that night, after Rebecca had left an enthusiastic voicemail for Amanda, and Lily had come downstairs for ice cream, Daniel sat on the back porch, looking up at the clear Texas sky. The air had cooled to a comfortable 70 degrees, and the neighborhood was quiet except for the distant sound of traffic on Highway 281. His phone buzzed. A text from Travis Bennett. Beer tomorrow night? Usual spot? Daniel smiled and typed back, Make it coffee. Got something to run by you. Travis's response came immediately. Mysterious. I'm in. 7 p.m. As Daniel put his phone away, he heard the screen door open. Rebecca stepped out, wrapped in one of his old Marine Corps sweatshirts, and settled into the chair beside him. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, her hand in his. You scared? She asked finally. Terrified, Daniel admitted. What if I get there and can't do it? What if I freeze up or say something stupid? What if his people think I'm some kind of obsessed weirdo? Then you tried. That's more than most people do. Rebecca turned to face him, her expression serious. But Danny, I don't think you'll freeze. You talk to struggling veterans every week, helping them face their demons. You rebuilt a business from nothing. You fought your way back from a place most people don't survive. Meeting George Strait and handing him a letter? That's nothing compared to what you've already done. Daniel pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of her shampoo. How'd I get so lucky to have you? You didn't get lucky. You did the work. She kissed his cheek. Now we do this work together. We get you to Houston, get you in front of George Strait, and you say what you need to say. Simple as that. Daniel laughed softly. Nothing's ever that simple. Then we make it complicated together. That's what we do best. The next evening, Daniel met Travis Bennett at Rosella Coffee on South Alamo Street, a local spot they'd claimed as their own after countless AA meetings at the church next door. Travis was already there, sitting at their usual corner table, his tall frame folded into the small chair. At 45, Travis was built like he'd been assembled from spare parts, all angles and scars, with close-cropped gray hair and eyes that had seen too much. But his smile was genuine when he saw Daniel approach. "This better be good," Travis said as Daniel sat down with his black coffee. "You never ask to meet midweek unless something's up." Daniel pulled out the letter and slid it across the table. "Read this." Travis read slowly, his expression shifting from curiosity to understanding to something that looked like pride. When he finished, he set the letter down carefully. "You're really doing this?" "Trying to. Rebecca's working her connections." There's a show in Houston next month. Houston? Toyota Center? Yeah, March 14th. Travis was quiet for a moment, his fingers drumming on the table in a rhythm Daniel recognized. A habit from their military days when Travis was working through a problem. You remember Jimmy Kowalski? Daniel searched his memory. From our support group? Big guy? Works construction? That's him. His cousin Patrick Kowalski is a stage manager. Works concerts all over Texas. I bet he knows people who work George Strait's shows. Travis pulled out his phone. Let me make a call. Travis, you don't have to... Brother, you literally talked me off a ledge. Literally. That night in 2023 when I called you from the Navarro Street Bridge? Travis met Daniel's eyes with an intensity that stopped any argument. You drove 40 minutes in a thunderstorm, climbed up there with me, and talked until sunrise. You saved my life. If I can help you thank the man who saved yours, I'm doing it. No discussion. Daniel felt his throat tighten. He nodded, not trusting his voice. Travis stepped outside to make the call while Daniel sat with his cooling coffee, watching the evening crowd filter in and out of the coffee shop. Young couples, students with laptops, a group of older men playing dominoes in the corner. Normal life, the kind he'd thought he'd lost forever. When Travis returned, he was grinning. Patrick works the Houston circuit. He doesn't do George Strait's shows personally, but he knows the touring crew. He's making some calls, seeing what he can find out about backstage access, or how to get your letter to the man himself. Travis, I don't know what to say. Don't say anything. Just promise me something. Travis sat down, his expression turning serious. Whatever happens, whether you meet him or not, whether you get to say your piece or just hand off the letter to some assistant, promise me you won't measure your worth by the outcome. You're doing something brave and meaningful. That matters regardless of how it turns out. Daniel absorbed the words, recognizing the same wisdom he'd often shared with others in their support group. It was strange and humbling to be on the receiving end. I promise. Good. Now, when are we leaving for Houston? We? You think I'm missing this? Hell no. I'm driving you there myself. We'll make a road trip out of it. Take Rebecca and Lily too. Turn it into a family thing. Travis was already planning, his strategic military mind clicking into gear. We leave early, get lunch in Houston, scope out the venue, figure out our approach. Even if the backstage thing doesn't work out, we'll have a plan B and a plan C. Daniel felt overwhelmed by the support, by the way his small idea was growing into something bigger with help from people who loved him. You really think we can pull this off? I think when you want something bad enough, and you're willing to put in the work, most things are possible. Travis raised his coffee cup. To Operation Thank You. Let's make it happen. Daniel clinked his cup against Travis's, allowing himself to fully embrace the possibility. For the first time in 15 years, since before Ryan died, since before Iraq changed him, he felt genuinely excited about the future. Over the next 2 weeks, the plan took shape with surprising momentum. Amanda Rodriguez, the radio producer Rebecca had contacted, called back with enthusiastic support. A petite woman in her early 30s with an infectious energy and genuine passion for country music. Amanda had worked for KSMG for 8 years and had interviewed dozens of major artists. I can't guarantee anything, Amanda told them during a meeting at the Hayes house, her laptop open on the kitchen table. George Strait's management is notoriously protective, and he keeps a pretty low profile off stage. But I have contacts at his label and with some of the Houston venue staff. Let me see what I can do. She was true to her word. Within a week, she'd connected with someone who worked with Strait's touring management. The letter had been passed along through proper channels, though there was no guarantee it would reach the singer himself, or that he'd respond even if it did. "The good news," Amanda reported, "is that I got us tickets. Good ones, 5th row center. And I have a contact who works venue operations at the Toyota Center. He says there's a very narrow window after sound check, when some fans can sometimes meet performers if the stars align. No promises, but it's a chance." Daniel could barely believe how much help was materializing. Carlos offered to cover the auto shop for the weekend. Travis confirmed he'd drive them all in his spacious Chevy Suburban. Rebecca coordinated time off from her nursing job at Methodist Hospital. Even Lily, initially skeptical of the whole plan, started researching George Strait's career, creating a playlist of his songs that she played constantly around the house. "I get it now," she told Daniel one evening while helping him close up the shop. "Why his music means so much to you. It's honest, you know? Like he's singing about real life, not some fantasy." Uncle Ryan had good taste. Hearing his daughter talk about Ryan, whom she'd never met but knew through stories, made Daniel's eyes sting. Yeah, he did. In music, anyway. His taste in jokes was terrible. Lily laughed. "Tell me one. One of his bad jokes." Daniel thought back, sorting through memories that no longer felt like shards of glass. "Okay." Ryan used to say, "What do you call a bear with no teeth?" "What?" "A gummy bear." Lily groaned, but she was smiling. "That's so bad it's almost good." That was Ryan, king of the dad jokes before he was old enough to be a dad. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, organizing tools and sweeping the garage floor. The evening air drifted in through the open bay doors, carrying the smell of mesquite smoke from a nearby restaurant. "Dad?" Lily's voice was tentative. "Are you nervous about meeting him?" "Absolutely terrified," Daniel admitted. "What if I get there and can't find the words? What if he thinks I'm crazy?" "I don't think he'll think you're crazy. I think he'll be honored." Lily set down her broom and faced him. "You're the kind of person his songs are about. Real people with real struggles who keep going anyway. If he can't appreciate that, he's not worth meeting." Daniel hugged his daughter, marveling at when she'd become so wise. "When did you grow up?" "Probably around the time you started teaching me that being strong means asking for help when you need it." She pulled back, her green eyes serious. "You taught me that, Dad, by doing it yourself." The night before the Houston trip, Daniel couldn't sleep. He lay in bed beside Rebecca, listening to her steady breathing, his mind racing through scenarios. What would he say if he actually got the chance? Would the letter be enough? Would his voice work? Would he break down crying and embarrass himself? "Danny, I can hear you thinking from here," Rebecca murmured, rolling over to face him. "Talk to me. What if this is a mistake? What if I'm building it up too much and it all falls apart?" Rebecca reached up and touched his face, her hand soft against his beard. "Then it falls apart, and we deal with it. But you know what I think? I think you're afraid of hoping for something good. You've gotten so used to expecting disappointment that actually wanting something feels dangerous." Daniel absorbed her words, recognizing the truth in them. "You're right. I'm scared of wanting this. I know. But wanting good things, fighting for good things, that's not weakness, Danny. That's healing. That's hope." She kissed him gently. "Whatever happens tomorrow, I'm proud of you for trying. Lily's proud of you. Travis is proud of you. And Ryan would be too." Daniel felt tears slip down his temples. "I miss him so much sometimes. It's hard to breathe." "I know. But you're breathing anyway. You're living. You're honoring him by being the man he believed you could be." Rebecca settled against his chest. "Now try to sleep. Tomorrow's a big day." Daniel held his wife close, letting her certainty anchor him. Eventually, his racing thoughts slowed, and sleep found him. The sun was barely cresting the horizon when Travis pulled up in front of the Hayes house, At 6:30 in the morning, his dark blue Suburban idling in the driveway. Daniel stood on the front porch with 2 travel mugs of coffee, watching the sky transition from deep purple to orange over the San Antonio skyline. The March air was cool and crisp, perfect road trip weather. And for the first time in weeks, Daniel felt his anxiety give way to anticipation. Rebecca emerged with a large tote bag filled with snacks, water bottles, and the carefully organized itinerary she'd printed out the night before. Lily followed, earbuds already in, clutching a pillow for the 3-hour drive. She'd dressed carefully for the concert. Dark jeans, boots, and a vintage George Strait t-shirt she'd found at a thrift store on Blanco Road. "Everyone ready for this?" Travis called from the driver's window. His weathered face creased with a rare smile. "Ready as we'll ever be," Daniel replied, handing Rebecca into the front passenger seat, while he and Lily climbed into the back. The Suburban smelled like leather and Travis's preferred coffee blend. Dark roast, no sugar. As they pulled out of the neighborhood and merged onto I-10 East, Daniel watched his city scroll past the window. They passed the Alamodome, the historic missions, the sprawling military installations that had once been his whole world. San Antonio held 15 years of his life, the good, the terrible, and everything in between. But today, they were driving toward something new. "So, what's the plan when we get there?" Lily asked, pulling out one earbud. Rebecca consulted her notes. "We're meeting Amanda at 11:30 for lunch at the Breakfast Club. She says it's famous, and we should try it. After that, we check into the hotel. Travis got us rooms at the Marriott near the venue. Then Amanda's contact, Derek Patterson, is meeting us at the Toyota Center at 3 o'clock. He works venue operations and thinks he might be able to get us near the backstage area during sound check." "Might" being the key word, Daniel interjected, managing his own expectations. "We have to remember this could not work out." "Or it could work out perfectly," Lily countered. "Uncle Travis always says, plan for the worst, but hope for the best, right?" Travis caught Daniel's eye in the rearview mirror. "Smart kid you got there." The landscape shifted as they drove east. San Antonio's urban sprawl gave way to rolling Texas hill country, then gradually flattened into the coastal plains that stretched toward Houston. They passed through small towns, Seguin, Luling, Columbus, each with their grain silos and water towers, their main streets and churches, the backbone of Texas that tourists never saw. Travis told stories from their time in Iraq, the funny ones that had aged well with distance. Rebecca shared hospital stories that made them laugh and wince in equal measure. Lily played DJ, surprising them with a carefully curated playlist that mixed George Strait classics with modern country artists, creating a musical bridge between generations. Around Sealy, about 40 miles from Houston, they stopped for gas and bathroom breaks at a truck stop. Daniel stretched his legs in the parking lot, breathing in the smell of diesel and fried food. His phone buzzed. A text from Carlos. "Good luck today, hermano. You got this." Another text came through, this one from Jimmy Kowalski, the veteran whose cousin had made introductions. "Patrick says the crew knows about you. They're pulling for you. Stay ready." Daniel screenshot both messages and showed them to Travis, who grinned. "See? The universe is conspiring in your favor." "Or setting me up for a spectacular disappointment," Daniel said. But he was smiling. "Where's your faith, brother? I left it somewhere between Fallujah and my 4th whiskey bottle." "Well, time to find it again." Travis clapped him on the shoulder. "Come on, we got a city to conquer." They arrived in Houston just after 10:30. The downtown skyline rising from the flat landscape like a modern mirage. Travis navigated the traffic with military precision, guided by Rebecca's GPS directions toward Midtown and the Breakfast Club on Travis Street. The restaurant was bustling, a local institution painted in cheerful yellows and reds, with a line of people already waiting outside. Amanda Rodriguez was easy to spot, a petite woman with dark curly hair, bright smile, and an energy that seemed to vibrate around her. She waved enthusiastically when she saw them. "You made it! Perfect timing!" Amanda hugged Rebecca like they were old friends, then shook hands with everyone else. "I already put our name in. Should be about 20 minutes. This place is worth the wait, I promise." While they waited, Amanda briefed them on the day's developments. "So, Derek Patterson confirmed he can get us into the venue early. He knows the head of security, Frank Buchanan, who's apparently a huge supporter of veterans. When Derek mentioned your story, Daniel, Frank said he'd do what he could to facilitate a meeting." Daniel's heart rate kicked up. "Seriously? Seriously? But..." Amanda held up a cautionary hand. "We have to be realistic. George Strait's schedule is locked down tight. Even if we get backstage, there's no guarantee he'll have time. His manager, Louise Chen, runs a very tight ship. So we go in with reasonable expectations and maximum gratitude for any opportunity, okay?" "Understood," Daniel said, though his palms were already sweating. The breakfast was everything Amanda promised. Chicken and waffles that made Lily's eyes widen, catfish and grits that had Travis asking for the recipe, biscuits so fluffy Rebecca took a photo. The food and conversation eased some of Daniel's tension. Amanda shared stories from her years in radio, including the time she'd accidentally called Tim McCraw during a live interview. "I wanted to die," she laughed. "But he was so gracious about it, just gently corrected me and moved on. That's when I learned that most of these big stars are just regular people doing an extraordinary job." "That helps, actually," Daniel said, thinking of George Strait as just a regular guy. "Well, a regular guy who's sold more than 100 million records and has more #1 hits than anyone in history," Travis deadpanned. "No pressure." After lunch, they checked into the Marriott, freshening up in their rooms before reconvening in the lobby at 2:30. Daniel changed into the outfit Rebecca had helped him pick out. Dark jeans, a button-down shirt in deep blue, and his good boots. He looked at himself in the bathroom mirror, practicing what he might say. "Mr. Strait, I'm Daniel Hayes. I just wanted to thank you." Too formal. "George, your music saved my life." Too presumptuous. "Sir, I wrote you a letter." Too military. Rebecca appeared behind him in the mirror. "Just be yourself, Danny. That's who the letter is from. That's who he should meet." Daniel turned and pulled the folded letter from his pocket. He'd protected it in a plastic sleeve. The paper now a precious document. "What if I forget how to talk?" "Then I'll talk for you," Rebecca said simply. "Or Travis will. Or Lily. Or Amanda. You're not doing this alone." They met Derek Patterson in front of the Toyota Center at exactly 3 o'clock. He was a barrel-chested man in his 50s with a salt-and-pepper mustache and the easy authority of someone who'd managed crowds for decades. His credentials hung from a lanyard around his neck, and he carried several guest passes. "Daniel Hayes?" He extended a meaty hand. "Derek Patterson. Amanda's told me a lot about you. Thank you for your service." "Thank you for helping us," Daniel replied, shaking firmly. Derek distributed the guest passes. "These will get you into the venue and into certain backstage areas. Frank Buchanan is waiting inside. He'll escort you around. Now, I want to be straight with you about what's possible and what's not." They gathered close as Derek explained the reality. George Strait and his band would arrive around 4 for sound check. The sound check itself was closed, except for essential crew. However, there was typically a brief period afterward, around 5:30, when Strait sometimes met with special guests, VIPs, or people his management had approved in advance. "Louise Chen, his manager, got your letter," Derek said, looking directly at Daniel. She shared it with George. I don't know what he said, but the fact that Louise made time in the schedule for a possible meet and greet is significant. She doesn't do that for just anyone. Daniel felt lightheaded. He read my letter? According to my source, yes. Can't tell you more than that. Derek checked his watch. Let's get you inside and settled. Remember, no guarantees, but we're going to do our best. The Toyota Center was massive, capable of seating nearly 20,000 people. Walking through the corridors with Derek, seeing the infrastructure that supported shows of this magnitude, Daniel felt increasingly small. What had he been thinking? That a random mechanic from San Antonio could just walk up to one of the biggest stars in country music history and have a conversation? Frank Buchanan met them near the backstage entrance, a tall African-American man in his 60s with kind eyes and a firm handshake. He wore a security uniform but carried himself with the bearing of someone who'd served. Daniel recognized it immediately. Marine Corps, 1982 to 1992. Frank confirmed when Daniel mentioned it. Iraq, 2 tours, 2009 to 2011. Tough ones. Welcome home, brother. Frank's expression conveyed understanding that needed no elaboration. Derek filled me in on your mission today. I'm going to do everything I can to make it happen. But I need you to understand the constraints. My first job is George's safety and privacy. My second job is keeping this venue running smoothly. If I can help you meet him within those parameters, I will. I understand completely, sir. I appreciate anything you can do. Frank led them through a maze of corridors to a private room labeled Green Room B. It was comfortably furnished with couches, a catering spread, and a TV showing the empty arena floor from multiple angles. Wait here, Frank said. I'm going to check on the schedule. Sound check should start in about 30 minutes. I'll come back when I know more. After he left, the 5 of them sat in nervous silence. Amanda checked her phone constantly. Travis paced. Rebecca held Daniel's hand. Lily explored the catering table, nervously eating grapes. This is surreal, Daniel finally said. I can't believe we're actually here. Believe it, Travis said. You made this happen, brother. You and your letter and your courage. Time crawled. At 4:15, they heard the distinctive sound of an acoustic guitar being tuned, the notes drifting through the walls. Then a voice, unmistakably George Strait, doing vocal warm-ups. Lily grabbed Daniel's arm, her eyes wide. Dad, that's him. That's actually him. Daniel nodded, unable to speak. The reality of proximity hit him like a physical force. Somewhere beyond these walls, maybe 100 feet away, was the man whose voice had pulled him back from the edge. Frank returned at 5:20, his expression unreadable. Okay, here's the situation. Sound check went long. They're working out some technical issues with the acoustic set. George has a scheduled call with his label at 6. Then he needs to have dinner and prepare for the show. Louise Chen can give you exactly 10 minutes at 5:45. That's it. And only Daniel. The rest of you will need to stay here. Daniel's stomach dropped. 10 minutes. Alone. I'll go with him, Rebecca started. But Frank shook his head. Louise was very specific. One person, 10 minutes. I'm sorry. Rebecca turned to Daniel, searching his face. Can you do this? Could he walk into a room alone and face the person he'd built up to mythic proportions in his mind? Find words adequate to express gratitude for being alive? Do it all in 10 minutes with his anxiety threatening to choke him? Yes, Daniel heard himself say. I can do this. Travis stood and gripped Daniel's shoulders, looking him dead in the eye. Remember why you're here. Not to impress anyone, not to perform, just to say thank you. You've got this. Lily hugged him tight. Make Uncle Ryan proud, Dad. Rebecca kissed him, her hands framing his face. Breathe. Speak from your heart. You've already written the words. Now just say them. At 5:43, Frank escorted Daniel down a different corridor, their footsteps echoing on polished concrete. Daniel's heart hammered so hard, he wondered if Frank could hear it. They stopped in front of a door marked Private Artist Only. "He's in there," Frank said quietly. "Louise Chen will open the door at 5:45 exactly. You'll have until 5:55. When she says time's up, you thank them and leave. Understood?" "Understood." "And Daniel? He's just a man. A good man who's curious about your story. Don't forget that." At exactly 5:45, the door opened. A stylish Asian woman in her early 50s stood there, her expression professional but not unkind. "Mr. Hayes? I'm Louise Chen. Please come in." Daniel stepped into the room, and there he was. George Strait sat on a leather couch in the private dressing room, a bottle of water in one hand, wearing jeans, boots, and a simple black t-shirt. At 74 years old, he looked remarkably like his publicity photos. The same lean build, the signature smile lines around his eyes, the silver hair beneath a white cowboy hat. But in person, there was a quiet, grounded quality to him that no photograph could capture. He stood as Daniel entered, extending his hand. "Daniel Hayes, I read your letter. Thank you for writing it." His voice was the one Daniel knew from 1,000 songs, but hearing it address him by name made everything feel simultaneously surreal and achingly real. Daniel shook his hand, finding his own voice somewhere beneath the surge of adrenaline. "Mr. Strait, thank you for taking the time. I know how busy you are. Call me George, and please, sit down." He gestured to a chair across from the couch. Louise Chen remained by the door, polite but watchful of the time. "Your letter moved me. Honestly, it reminded me why I do what I do. You mind if we talk about it?" Daniel sat, his hands clasped to keep them from shaking. "I don't mind at all. I wasn't sure if... I know you must get thousands of letters." "I do," George acknowledged, settling back onto the couch with an ease that helped Daniel relax fractionally. "But not many like yours. You mentioned your brother Ryan. Tell me about him." The request caught Daniel off guard. He'd prepared to talk about his own struggles, his recovery, his gratitude. He hadn't expected to be asked about Ryan. But as he started talking, the words came easier than he'd imagined. "Ryan was my little brother, 5 years younger. Growing up in Bourne, he followed me everywhere, drove me crazy as a kid, but I loved him fiercely. He was funny, always cracking jokes, terrible puns, the kind of stuff that made you groan and laugh at the same time." Daniel felt himself smile at the memories. "When I joined the Marines and deployed to Iraq, Ryan enlisted in the Army. Said somebody had to watch my back. We ended up at nearby bases for a while, both working as mechanics. He'd come by whenever he could, always humming your songs while he worked." George listened with complete attention, the kind of focused presence that made Daniel understand how this man had connected with audiences for 5 decades. "His favorite was Amarillo by Morning," Daniel continued. "He'd sing it at like 4 in the morning during motor pool duty. Drove everyone nuts, but it became this thing. Guys would request it just to mess with him, and he'd perform it full out. Terrible twang and all. He said if he made it home alive, he was going to learn guitar and sing country for real. But he didn't make it home," George said gently. "No, sir. May 2011, IED outside Fallujah. He was gone before anyone could do anything." Daniel's voice roughened. "I finished my tour and came home to San Antonio a few months later. Everyone kept saying I was lucky to make it back alive, but I didn't feel lucky. I felt hollow. Ryan was the good one, the light one. I was just angry all the time. Louise Chen checked her watch discreetly, but George didn't seem concerned with time. Your letter mentioned struggling when you got home. Struggling is a kind word for it. I fell apart. Started drinking, heavy and often. Pushed away my wife Rebecca. Barely saw my daughter Lily. Lost jobs. Lost friends. I was on a path to losing everything, and part of me thought that was what I deserved. Daniel met George's eyes, finding understanding there. 3 years into that spiral, I was in my apartment, drunk, surrounded by bottles, seriously considering just ending it. And your song came on the radio, Carrying Your Love with Me. What about that song reached you? George leaned forward slightly, genuinely curious. Daniel had to pause, organizing thoughts he'd never fully articulated even to his therapist. It was the line about taking someone with you everywhere you go, keeping them close even when they're gone. I heard Ryan's voice in yours. He used to tell me before every patrol, "Take me with you, Danny. I'll watch your back." After he died, I'd forgotten that. I'd only been carrying the pain of losing him, not the gift of having known him. George nodded slowly, his eyes reflective. That's a profound distinction. Your song reminded me that I could honor Ryan by living well, by carrying forward the good parts of him, his humor, his optimism, his love for family. Instead of drowning in his death, I could celebrate his life by actually living mine. Daniel's hands were steadier now. That night, I called Rebecca. First time I'd really talked to her in weeks. Told her I needed help. She came over, cleaned up the apartment with me, and we found a veterans support group through the VA. I went to my first meeting 3 days later. Been sober ever since. 3 years, 2 months, and 14 days. That's incredible, Daniel. Truly. George's respect was evident in his tone. But you did the hard work. The song just showed up at the right time. Maybe. But that's the thing about music like yours. It shows up when people need it. That's not an accident. That's craft and truth and something bigger than entertainment. Daniel pulled the letter from his pocket, still in its protective sleeve. I wanted you to have this. But more than that, I wanted to look you in the eye and say thank you. Your music gave me a lifeline when I desperately needed one. You helped save my life. George took the letter, holding it carefully. I'm honored, really, and I'm grateful you found your way back to your family. That couldn't have been easy. It wasn't. Still isn't some days, but I have help. Rebecca, my daughter, my best friend Travis, who's a veteran too, our support group. We help each other stay strong. Daniel paused, then added, Actually, I run a group now, about 8 of us, meeting weekly. Guys dealing with PTSD, addiction, reintegration struggles. I share your music with them sometimes, the songs that helped me. Several of them are fans now because they see how real country music can be medicine. George's expression shifted to something deeper, a kind of humbled recognition. I don't know what to say. That my songs could serve that purpose for you and for other veterans. That's the highest compliment I could receive. Louise Chen cleared her throat gently. George, I'm sorry, but we're at time. You have the call in 3 minutes. George stood and Daniel followed. But instead of moving toward the door, George stepped closer. Daniel, can I ask you something? Of course. Would you be willing to come to the show tonight as my personal guest? Not in your seats, I mean backstage, side stage, where you can really see everything? Bring your family, bring your friend Travis. I'd like you there. Daniel's mind went blank with shock. You want us backstage? If you're comfortable with that. Louise, can we make that happen? Louise was already typing on her phone. Consider it done. I'll have credentials ready within the hour." "I don't know what to say," Daniel managed. "Say yes," George smiled. "And maybe later, if you're willing, I'd like you to meet the band. Some of them are veterans too. They'd appreciate your story." "Yes. Absolutely. Yes. Thank you." Daniel shook George's hand again, overwhelmed. "This is more than I ever expected. You came all this way just to say thank you. That means something." George's grip was firm and warm. "I'll see you tonight, Daniel. Enjoy the show." Louise escorted Daniel back through the corridors, his feet barely touching the ground. "Mr. Strait doesn't usually do that," she said as they walked. "Invite people into his private space like this. Your letter really affected him. I still can't believe he read it. He reads many of them, actually. He cares about his fans. But yours stood out. The honesty, the specificity, the way you connected his art to your life. That's what artists hope for, you know? That their work matters beyond entertainment." They reached the green room where Daniel's family and friends waited. Rebecca stood immediately when the door opened, searching his face. Travis, Lily, and Amanda were right behind her. "Well?" Rebecca asked. "How did it go?" Daniel's face split into a grin he couldn't contain. "We're going backstage for the show. All of us. As George Strait's personal guests." The room erupted. Lily screamed. Rebecca covered her mouth with both hands. Travis let out a whoop that probably violated several noise ordinances. Amanda grabbed her phone to text someone, tears in her eyes. "Are you serious right now?" Travis gripped Daniel's shoulders. "Backstage? With George Strait?" He read my letter. "We talked about Ryan, about the music, about recovery. He was..." Daniel struggled to find words adequate to the experience. "He was kind, really present, really listening. And then he invited us backstage to watch the show." Rebecca pulled him into a tight embrace, her voice muffled against his shoulder. "I'm so proud of you. So proud." Lily was bouncing on her toes. "Dad, this is insane. Wait until I tell everyone at school." Louise Chen arranged for new credentials to be delivered to their hotel. They had until 7 o'clock to get ready. Then Frank Buchanan would collect them and bring them back to the venue through the artist entrance. The show started at 8, and they'd watch from the side stage, close enough to see everything but out of the audience's view. Back at the hotel, Daniel sat on the edge of the bed, still processing what had happened. Rebecca sat beside him, her hand in his. "Tell me everything," she said. "Every detail." So he did. He recounted the conversation, George's questions about Ryan, the way the country legend had listened with such genuine interest, the unexpected invitation. Rebecca listened, tears streaming down her face. "Ryan would be losing his mind right now," she said when Daniel finished. His big brother, backstage with George Strait. "Danny, this is extraordinary. I keep waiting to wake up. It's real. You made it real by being brave enough to write that letter. Brave enough to come here." Rebecca cupped his face. "You deserve this. You deserve every good thing that's happening." Daniel kissed her, pouring 3 years of gratitude into the gesture. When they pulled apart, he said, "Thank you for believing in this. For believing in me. Always, Danny. Always." At 6:30, they assembled in the hotel lobby, dressed for a concert they'd never forget. Daniel wore the same outfit from the meeting, but Rebecca had changed into a sundress and denim jacket that made her look 10 years younger. Lily had added silver jewelry to her George Strait t-shirt, and Travis had somehow produced a sports coat that almost made him look civilized. Amanda met them there, practically vibrating with excitement. "I've worked in country radio for 8 years and never gotten backstage access to a George Strait show. This is bucket list level. Thank you for including me." "You helped make this happen," Daniel reminded her. "We wouldn't be here without your connections." Frank Buchanan arrived precisely at 7 in a Venue SUV. The drive to the Toyota Center took only minutes, but the atmosphere around the arena had transformed completely. Thousands of fans streamed toward the entrances, the parking lots full, the energy palpable. Seeing the crowd, Daniel felt a fresh wave of unreality. All these people had come to see the same person he'd just sat and talked with. Frank bypassed the public entrances, pulling into a secured area behind the venue. He distributed new credentials, laminated passes that read Artist Guest, AAA, with each of their names. These will get you anywhere except the actual dressing rooms. Stay with the escort I'm assigning you, and don't wander off. The backstage area during showtime is controlled chaos. Inside, the energy was electric. Crew members rushed past with equipment, clipboard-wielding assistants barked into headsets. Musicians tuned instruments in hallways. Their escort was a young woman named Kelly Wright, a production assistant with a warm smile and efficient manner. Follow me, stay close, and don't touch anything that looks expensive, which is basically everything, she said cheerfully, leading them through the maze. She brought them to the side stage area, a darkened space filled with equipment cases, monitor speakers, and technicians making final adjustments. From here, they had an unobstructed view of the stage and could see the massive arena filling with people. The opening act was already performing, a rising country artist whose name Daniel didn't catch over the roar of his own heartbeat. You can stand here or sit on those cases. Kelly pointed to a row of sturdy equipment boxes. Don't go past that red line on the floor. That's the camera zone. George usually comes out about 5 minutes before he goes on. Sometimes he'll chat. Sometimes he's in the zone. Just follow his lead. After she left to handle other duties, the 5 of them stood together, absorbing the spectacle. The stage was massive, the lighting rig complex, the sound system powerful enough to rattle Daniel's chest, even during sound check levels. "This is unreal," Lily whispered, her phone out to capture everything. "I can't believe we're actually here." Travis stood beside Daniel, his expression uncharacteristically emotional. "Brother, I've seen you come back from the edge. Watched you rebuild your life piece by piece. But seeing you here, about to experience this, it's perfect. It's exactly what you deserve." The opening act finished around 7:40. During the transition, crew members flooded the stage, adjusting equipment, placing instruments, checking levels. The audience noise grew louder, anticipation building. At 7:53, George Strait appeared from the opposite wing, surrounded by his band members, seasoned musicians carrying guitars, adjusting in-ear monitors, radiating the calm professionalism of people who'd done this thousands of times. George had changed into performance attire, starched jeans, a button-down Western shirt, polished boots, and his signature white cowboy hat. He spotted Daniel's group and walked over, his stage manager following close behind with a tablet and worried expression. "You made it," George said, his smile genuine. "Got everything you need?" "More than everything," Daniel replied. "Thank you again for this." George turned to the others. "You must be Rebecca. Daniel spoke about you with great admiration." Rebecca shook his hand, star-struck but composed. "Thank you for being so kind to my husband." "And you're Lily." George shook her hand too. "Your dad says you've been researching my music. What's your favorite song?" Lily managed to speak despite her obvious awe. "I love I Cross My Heart. My parents danced to it at their wedding." "That's a good one. Means a lot to me, too." George turned to Travis and Amanda, greeting each warmly. To Travis, he said, "Daniel tells me you're the one who helped make this happen. Thank you for your service and for being such a good friend to him." Travis, rarely speechless, managed, "Honored to meet you, sir." The stage manager cleared his throat. "George, 2 minutes." "Right." George turned back to Daniel. "Enjoy the show." "And Daniel, about halfway through, during the acoustic set, I'm going to do something a little different. Just go with it, okay?" Before Daniel could ask what that meant, George was gone, moving toward the stage entrance with his band. The lights dropped. The crowd erupted, and the show began. The moment George Strait walked onto the stage, the Toyota Center transformed into a living organism. 20,000 voices screamed as one. The sound, a physical force that Daniel felt in his bones. The band launched into "Here for a Good Time," the upbeat tempo setting an energetic tone, and George commanded the stage with the effortless charisma of someone who'd been doing this for 50 years. From the side stage, Daniel watched with a perspective few fans ever experienced. He could see George's interactions with the band, the subtle cues and signals, the way the musicians communicated through glances and nods. He could see the crew working in the shadows, adjusting lights and monitoring sound levels. He could see the massive video screens displaying George's face to the back rows. And he could see those back rows themselves. Thousands of people singing every word. Rebecca gripped his hand, her face glowing with excitement. Lily recorded snippets on her phone, capturing moments she'd replay forever. Travis stood with arms crossed, nodding along to the music, while Amanda sang along to every song, knowing every lyric. The set list was a greatest hits journey through 5 decades. The chair had the crowd swaying. All My Exes Live in Texas brought laughter and shout-alongs. Oceanfront Property showcased the clever wordplay that made George's songs endure. Between songs, George spoke to the audience with genuine warmth, sharing brief stories and thanking Houston for the welcome. During Check Yes or No, Daniel watched a couple in the front row kiss during the chorus, and he pulled Rebecca close, remembering their own young love, the way they danced to this song at a friend's wedding back when they were just dating. "I love you," he said into her ear, loud enough to be heard over the music. "I love you too," she replied, her eyes bright with happy tears. The show flowed seamlessly from upbeat hits to tender ballads. When George performed "I Cross My Heart," Lily grabbed both her parents' hands, the three of them swaying together as George's voice filled the arena with the song's timeless promise of devotion. Daniel thought about his wedding day, about the vows he'd broken during his darkest years, about the grace Rebecca had shown him when he'd finally fought his way back. Around the 45-minute mark, the energy shifted. The full band exited, leaving George alone on stage with just an acoustic guitar and a single spotlight. The audience quieted, the massive space somehow feeling intimate. "I want to slow things down a bit," George said, his voice conversational. "Talk to you about something that reminded me why I love what I do." Daniel felt Rebecca stiffen beside him. Travis leaned forward. "A few weeks ago, I received a letter from a man here in Texas. A veteran, a husband, a father. He wrote to tell me that one of my songs had helped save his life during a very dark time." George adjusted his guitar, his tone sincere. "As artists, we hope our work touches people, but we don't always get to hear how. This man's letter reminded me that music can be medicine, that songs can be lifelines, that what we do matters beyond entertainment." The audience was silent, hanging on every word. "That man is here tonight. His name is Daniel Hayes, and he's watching from side stage with his family." George turned slightly, gesturing toward where Daniel stood frozen in shock. "Daniel, would you come out here for a minute?" Time stopped. Daniel's mind went blank. Rebecca pushed him gently forward. "Go, Danny. It's okay." Kelly Wright appeared at his elbow, guiding him toward the stage entrance. Daniel walked on numb legs into the spotlight, the audience a dark mass beyond the glare, his entire body shaking. George met him center stage, shaking his hand, steadying him with a calm presence. Folks, Daniel Hayes, George said, and the audience applauded. Daniel wrote me a letter about how carrying your love with me reached him during the hardest moment of his life, after losing his brother in Iraq and struggling to find his way home. His letter moved me deeply. So, Daniel, I want to do something I don't usually do. I'm going to play that song right now, and I'm dedicating it to you, to your brother Ryan, and to all the veterans out there fighting battles we can't always see. Daniel couldn't speak, could barely breathe. George guided him to a stool someone had brought onto the stage. Sit right here if you're comfortable. Let me play this for you. Daniel sat, overwhelmed, as George returned to his microphone. The arena remained silent, respectful of the moment's wait. Then George began to play, his fingers moving across the acoustic guitar strings with practiced ease. The opening chords of "Carrying Your Love With Me" drifted through the massive space. When George began to sing, his voice carried the same tone and texture that had reached through Daniel's radio 3 years ago, cutting through darkness to remind him he wasn't alone. Baby, all I know to do is give my heart to you, carrying your love with me. Daniel sat on that stool in front of 20,000 people and wept, not from sadness, but from release. For Ryan, whose love he'd learned to carry instead of bury. For Rebecca, who'd never stopped believing in him. For Lily, who deserved the father he'd become. For Travis and the support group and everyone who'd helped him rebuild. For the music that had been a bridge back to life. Through his tears, he could see the video screens showing his face to the crowd. He should have felt embarrassed, vulnerable, exposed. Instead, he felt free. This moment, this public acknowledgement of his pain and his survival, validated everything he'd overcome. When the song ended, the audience erupted in applause. George set down his guitar and pulled Daniel to his feet, embracing him in a genuine hug that the cameras captured and the screens displayed. "Thank you," George said quietly, "just for Daniel, for your service, for your courage, for sharing your story." "Thank you," Daniel managed through tears, "for everything." George turned to the audience. "Let's hear it for Daniel Hayes and all our veterans." The applause swelled again, and someone started a chant, "USA! USA!" Daniel waved awkwardly, overwhelmed by the support from thousands of strangers who knew nothing about him, except that he'd survived something difficult. Kelly Wright appeared to escort him off stage. As he walked back toward the wings, his legs barely functional, he saw his family. Rebecca was sobbing, Lily was recording with tears streaming down her face, Travis stood at attention in an informal salute, and Amanda had her hands over her heart. Daniel collapsed into Rebecca's arms the moment he reached them, shaking with emotion. She held him tight, whispering, "I'm so proud of you, so proud." The show continued, but Daniel experienced the rest in a daze. George performed "Amarillo" by Morning, Ryan's favorite, and Daniel sang along through tears, feeling his brother's presence more strongly than he had in years. The band returned for the big finale hits, the energy building to a crescendo with "All My Exes Live in Texas" and "The Cowboy Rides Away." During the final bow, George looked toward the side stage and tipped his hat directly at Daniel. The gesture, small but intentional, nearly undid Daniel all over again. When the show ended and the house lights came up, Kelly Wright returned. "George wants to know if you'd join him and the band for a few minutes in the hospitality area. No pressure if you're overwhelmed. He understands." "I'll go," Daniel said immediately. He looked at his family. "You guys okay if I go?" Rebecca said firmly. "We'll be right here." Kelly led Daniel through the backstage maze to a large room where the band members were decompressing, drinking water and beer, toweling off sweat. George was in the center, still in his stage clothes, laughing at something his steel guitarist had said. When he saw Daniel, he broke away from the group. "How you doing?" he asked, his concern genuine. "I honestly don't know," Daniel admitted. I can't process what just happened. I hope it wasn't too much. I should have given you more warning, but I didn't decide to do it until this afternoon, after we talked." "Why?" Daniel asked. "Why did you do that?" George considered the question. "Because your story deserves to be told. Because other people out there are struggling with the same things. And hearing that someone made it through, that matters. Because I could, and it felt right." He paused. "And because sometimes we all need to be reminded that we're not alone in our battles." He introduced Daniel to the band members. Jeff Parker, the lead guitarist, was a Navy veteran who'd served in the First Gulf War. They talked for 10 minutes about the difficulties of transitioning back to civilian life, about the importance of finding purpose after service. Mike Sullivan, the drummer, shared that his son struggled with PTSD and that Daniel's story gave him hope for his boy's recovery. Each interaction felt significant, authentic. These weren't celebrities being polite to a fan. They were people recognizing shared humanity, exchanging stories that mattered. George pulled Daniel aside before he left. "I want you to have something." He handed Daniel a set list from the show, signed by all the band members, with a personal note. "Daniel, thanks for reminding me why music matters. Keep carrying Ryan's love. You honor him by living well. George." Daniel stared at the paper, this artifact of an impossible night. "I don't know how to thank you adequately." "You already did. You wrote me an honest letter and came here to say thank you in person. That took courage." George shook his hand one final time. "Take care of yourself and your family, Daniel. And if you ever need anything, Louise has my permission to put you through." Walking back to his family, Daniel felt altered at a cellular level. The person who'd entered the Toyota Center that afternoon wasn't the same person leaving it now. He'd been seen, heard, and honored in a way that validated not just his survival, but his worth. The drive back to San Antonio the next morning was subdued, everyone processing the previous night's events in their own way. Lily dozed in the back seat, exhausted from staying up past midnight reliving every moment. Rebecca sat in front with Travis, occasionally reaching back to touch Daniel's knee, grounding him. Daniel stared out the window at the Texas landscape rolling past, the signed set list carefully protected in his bag. His phone had blown up overnight. Amanda had posted about the experience on social media, and the story was spreading. Messages poured in from fellow veterans, from people struggling with their own battles, from strangers moved by what George had done. One message from a member of his veterans support group read, "Man, I watched a video someone posted from the show. Seeing you up there, seeing George honor you like that, it gave me hope. If you can make it through, maybe I can too." That message, more than anything, crystallized the significance of what had happened. It wasn't about Daniel meeting a celebrity. It was about hope being passed forward, about one person's survival story inspiring others to keep fighting. "You're quiet," Travis observed, catching Daniel's eye in the rearview mirror. "Just thinking about what comes next." "What do you mean?" "I mean, something shifted last night. I went to Houston to say thank you for the past. But now I'm thinking about the future, about how to use this experience to help other people." Rebecca turned to look at him, her expression curious. "What are you thinking?" Daniel organized his thoughts, an idea taking shape. What if we expanded the veterans support group, made it bigger, more structured, maybe partnered with the VA to reach more people, used my story, our story, to show guys that recovery is possible? Travis's face lit up. "I love that. We could get funding, bring in professional counselors, maybe even do some outreach to active duty service members before they separate. And we could incorporate music therapy, Amanda chimed in, surprisingly awake. There's research showing how music helps with PTSD and depression. I could help coordinate that, maybe get local musicians involved. This is good, Rebecca said, her nurse's mind already working through logistics. The hospital has grant programs for community health initiatives. I could look into funding options. Lily stirred in the back. Dad, you should write a blog or something. Tell your whole story. Uncle Ryan deserves to have people know who he was. The ideas flowed for the rest of the drive, turning Daniel's vague inspiration into concrete possibilities. By the time they reached San Antonio, they had the skeleton of a plan: expand the support group, formalize it as a nonprofit, integrate multiple therapeutic approaches, including music, and share stories publicly to reduce stigma and inspire hope. Back at the auto shop on Monday morning, Carlos noticed the change immediately. You look different, hermano. Like you're carrying something lighter. Or carrying it better. Daniel replied, then explained everything that had happened. Carlos listened, his expression cycling through disbelief, joy, and pride. This is incredible, Danny. So what now? Now we get to work. Daniel pulled out his laptop, opening a document he'd started during the drive home. I'm writing everything down. Ryan's story, my struggle, the recovery, the letter, meeting George, all of it. People need to know that hitting bottom doesn't mean staying there. Over the next month, Daniel's life expanded in ways he never anticipated. The blog posts he wrote about his journey went viral within the veteran community. News outlets picked up the story of George Strait honoring a veteran on stage. Donations for the expanded support group poured in, small amounts from individuals, larger grants from veteran-focused organizations. Warriors Forward, as they named the nonprofit, officially launched in May 2026. The first meeting in their new space, a donated office suite near the VA hospital, drew 23 veterans, more than double their usual group. Daniel stood before them, more nervous than he'd been on stage in Houston, and shared his story completely for the first time. He talked about Ryan with both grief and celebration. He detailed his descent into addiction and his darkest moments. He described the night a song saved his life and the 3-year journey back to stability. He showed them the video of George Strait dedicating "Carrying Your Love With Me" to him, and several men in the room cried openly. I'm not special, Daniel concluded. I'm not stronger or braver than any of you. I just had help at the right moments. From my wife, from Travis, from a support group, from a song that reminded me I wasn't alone. That help saved me. Now I want to be that help for others. That's why we're all here, to help each other carry what we need to carry, together. The meeting that night ran 3 hours. Men shared stories they'd never told anyone. Travis facilitated discussions about PTSD management. A professional counselor Rebecca had recruited provided resources. And at the end, Amanda led them in a music therapy session, playing acoustic versions of songs that meant something to different members. When one veteran requested George Strait, Daniel told the whole story again. The letter, the trip, the 10-minute conversation, the on-stage dedication. He passed around the signed set list, now framed and hanging in the Warriors Forward office as a reminder that asking for help, expressing gratitude, and being vulnerable could lead to extraordinary moments of connection. Music saved my life, Daniel told them. But more than that, deciding to honor what saved me, that's what changed everything. Don't be afraid to acknowledge what helps you. Don't be ashamed to say thank you. That vulnerability is strength. In June, George Strait's management reached out. Louise Chen called to say that George had followed the Warriors Forward launch. and wanted to make a donation. He also invited Daniel and Rebecca to his next San Antonio show in October, not as regular guests, but to meet with other veterans backstage before the concert. George was moved by what you've built, Louise explained. He wants to support it however he can. That October show became an annual tradition. George Strait hosting a pre-concert gathering for Warriors Forward members, spending time with veterans, listening to their stories, sometimes playing private acoustic songs just for them. The events raised awareness and funds, but more importantly, they provided hope, tangible proof that people cared, that service mattered, that recovery was possible. 2 years after the Houston show, on a warm spring evening in April 2028, Daniel stood in the expanded Warriors Forward facility. They'd moved to a larger building with multiple meeting rooms, a music therapy studio, and offices for 3 full-time counselors. The walls displayed photos from their programs: veterans playing guitars, group therapy sessions, success stories of men who'd found employment, reconnected with families, achieved sobriety. One wall was dedicated to Ryan Hayes. Daniel had assembled photos from their childhood, their military service, and quotes from people who'd known him. The centerpiece was Ryan's favorite George Strait lyric, painted in large letters, "Carrying your love with me." Rebecca found Daniel standing in front of that wall, lost in memory. She slipped her hand into his. "He'd be so proud of you," she said softly. "I think about that a lot. What he'd think of all this. He'd probably make a terrible joke to lighten the mood, then tell you he always knew you'd do something important." Daniel smiled, because that was exactly right. "I miss him every day, but it doesn't hurt the same way anymore. Now it's sweet, like carrying something precious instead of something heavy. That's growth, Danny. That's healing." They stood together in comfortable silence, surrounded by evidence of lives being rebuilt, of hope being restored, of the ripple effects from one letter written in gratitude. Lily, now 20, and studying psychology at UT San Antonio, with plans to become a trauma counselor for veterans, stopped by after class. She'd become deeply involved with Warriors Forward, running peer support groups for children of veterans, and studying how family systems affected recovery. "Dad, we just got confirmation. The VA is extending our grant for another 3 years. Full funding for all programs plus expansion into music therapy for active duty families." Daniel hugged his daughter, marveling at the woman she'd become. "That's incredible, Lil. It's because of what you started, what you and Uncle Travis built." She looked at Ryan's memorial wall. "And because Uncle Ryan's story reminds people that behind every veteran struggling at home is a family that loves them, a story worth knowing, a life worth saving." That evening, the weekly group meeting drew 34 veterans, representing all service branches and eras. Travis co-facilitated with Daniel, their partnership now seamless after years of working together. They opened with check-ins, celebrated victories, 60 days sober, job interview scheduled, daughter's graduation attended, and held space for struggles. A new member, Robert Chen, a young Marine recently separated after deployments to Syria, shared his story for the first time. His voice shook as he described his nightmares, his anger, his feeling that he'd left the best parts of himself overseas. "I don't know how to be normal anymore," Robert said, tears streaming. "I don't know if I can fix this." Daniel leaned forward. "You don't have to fix it alone. That's the whole point of this room. We're all carrying things, trauma, grief, guilt, loss, but we carry them together. And that shared weight, it gets lighter." He told Robert about Ryan, about the drinking, about the night he almost gave up. "A song on the radio reminded me I wasn't alone." Sounds small, right? But it was enough to make me reach for the phone instead of another bottle. Sometimes survival is that simple. One small choice to reach out instead of give up. Travis added his own story. Then others around the room shared theirs. By the end, Robert was still crying, but differently, with relief instead of despair. "You all get it," he said. "You understand." "We do," Daniel confirmed. "And we're here. Every week, whenever you need us. You're not fighting this battle alone anymore." After the meeting, as Daniel locked up the facility, he found a package by the door. Inside was a vinyl record, George Strait's latest album, with a note. Daniel saw the article about Warriors Forward's expansion. "Incredible work you're doing. Keep carrying it forward. You're proof that one person's courage to be vulnerable can change countless lives. Proud to know you. George." Daniel stood holding the record, remembering the mechanic's garage where he'd first heard "Carrying Your Love with Me," the moment that changed everything. He thought about the letter he'd been terrified to write, the trip to Houston he'd almost talked himself out of, the 10 minutes that had felt like a lifetime. All of it, the fear, the hope, the vulnerability, had led to this moment. To Warriors Forward, helping hundreds of veterans. To his family stronger than ever. To his own life transformed from survival into purpose. Rebecca appeared beside him, reading the note over his shoulder. "You did it, Danny. You turned your worst pain into something beautiful." "We did it," he corrected. "You, me, Travis, Lily, everyone who helped along the way. Even George Strait. We all carried each other." That night, in their living room, Daniel put the vinyl on their record player. As George Strait's voice filled the house, he pulled Rebecca close and they danced. Lily filming them on her phone and laughing. The music played, carrying love and memory and hope forward into the future. Outside, San Antonio sparkled under a clear Texas sky. Inside, a man who'd once lost himself completely was home, truly home, surrounded by evidence that survival was only the beginning. The real gift was what came after, the courage to transform pain into purpose, to honor the dead by living fully, to carry forward the best parts of what we've lost, and to help others find their own way through darkness into light. Daniel Hayes had wanted only to say thank you, but in doing so, he'd discovered something more valuable than he'd ever imagined. That gratitude, when shared openly and courageously, becomes a force that multiplies, touching not just one life, but hundreds, creating ripples that extend far beyond what we can see. And somewhere, in a place beyond words and music, Daniel believed Ryan was smiling. Not because his big brother had met a country music legend, but because Danny had finally learned to carry Ryan's love with him in a way that honored them both, by living well, by helping others, and by never again facing his battles alone.